came to those networking events last summer. So it's a long game too, isn't it? This relationship selling.
Yes, it is. And I love that you were willing, because sometimes it is about putting yourself out there. I mean, I still do quite a bit of things for free as I grow my business. I love to give people a taste of what they can expect when they work with me. And so there's always an opportunity to get a training or get my newsletter or get something from me for free, because it is about building relationship. And I want to make sure that people know that I don't see people as dollar signs. It's really, I want to work with people who I can really support, who I can help, and who are willing to implement.
Yeah.
And so some of that is building long-term relationships. As a matter of fact, I have a new client right now. She heard me speak 3 years ago, and she bought my book at the speaking event.
Wow.
And she said, I've been reading your newsletter, Nikki, for 3 years before I decided to dip my toe in the water and actually pay you any money. And she's a great client, and I'm so honored to work with her, but I needed to build that relationship before she was ready. And I'm willing to build the long game in sales, because I know that, you know, what I'm doing right now is probably going to show up. Some of it's going to show up in 3 months. Some of it's going to show up in 6. Some of it's going to show up in a year. And 3 years from now, I'll still need those clients who are just getting exposed to me now.
Yeah, who are just joining your list and buying your book now. So what about, Nikki? So what about, a lot of the people who listen to my podcast are people who are actually in corporate and thinking about leaving to start their business. So what do they do? Because they haven't got 6 months to build up a relationship before they can start to sell any of their services or products. So what would your tips be for those people?
Well, the tip I would give is look for low-hanging fruit, right? Like, we always want to go out and build this brand new community, and we want to, you know, we think we're going to put up a website and people are going to just flock to us, which is just not the case. So make a list. This would be my suggestion. Make a list of 10 people, up to 10 people who you think would really benefit from whatever it is that you're selling, whatever it is that you're providing. And then set up a time to have a real conversation with them and check in. And you might just say something like, you know, as I am growing my business in 2019 or whatever year it is, 2019, I am really I'm looking to serve people that need X, Y, and Z. And I'm wondering if you're somebody who would benefit from this. And it's okay to say to somebody like, I would love to earn your business. Is there an opportunity for that to happen? And now you've given them the opportunity to say yes or no, or tell me more. And so start with your low-hanging fruit. Start with people who know you, who are willing to like sit down with you and have a conversation. And when I say sit down, it could be, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a messenger, maybe it's a phone call, or maybe it really is a face-to-face. Think about what's the best way to have that conversation with the person. And then the other thing too is, I would say, don't be afraid to put on a low cost or even a free event. You know, the brilliant thing about Zoom is that you can do a free event. It doesn't really cost you much. And it's an opportunity for people to get exposed to your work. And don't be afraid to give away the juiciest like tidbit. You don't have to give away all of it. Don't give away everything, but give away one thing that people can take action on, that they can implement, and then they're going to want more from you. And then make sure you have an invitation on how they can get more at the end of the Zoom's, webinar, whatever it is that you're doing. Make sure that you have a best next step, and then pre-frame at the beginning. Here's the other thing I would say is pre-frame at the beginning for people that, the topic that we're going to be talking about today is XYZ. Those of you who are going to want more, I'm going to tell you how to get it at the end.
Ooh.
And then you start. So you pre-frame, so they're expecting an offer. And then when you make your offer, it's really satisfying to our brains, because we're like, oh, I knew this was coming. Here it is. And now I can make a decision.
I'm scribbling because I'm going to do that in my webinar next week.
Okay, good. Do this in your webinar. People will love you for it. So always pre-frame what's going to happen and how they can get more.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I bought a kind of overpriced webinar course about 3 years ago, and it's one of, I don't regret very many things in my business, but I kind of regret buying that. Because it's just a bit overpriced for what it was. And the way they trained on the webinar was this whole turn at the end to turn into doing your offer, but actually doesn't really fit with my personality or the way I do my business, because I would rather be much more upfront with people and say, look, I'm doing this webinar and, you know, I'm going to give you an offer at the end if you want to stay to the end, you know, with whatever way you said it there. I'm going to go back and write it down. That's much more, you know, genuine, isn't it?
The other thing I would say too is that you want to do the offer before you do the Q&A. Like if you're going to do a Q&A at the end. Yeah. So you pre-frame at the beginning, like here's what's going to happen. For those of you who want more, there's going to be an opportunity to do that. And I'm going to give you the offer right before we open it up to Q&A. Yeah. So then you bring the content to a close, whatever it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. And you say, now, before I open it up to Q&A, I promised that I was going to give an opportunity for those of you who are ready for more. And here's how to get it. And you only need to take like 2 or 3 minutes to outline your offer, make sure it's really clear what the next step is, how they can purchase it right then. And then say, and now I want to open it up to Q&A. And the reason that you open it up to Q&A now is because they might be asking you questions about the content, but some people might ask you questions about your offer. And you want to make sure that they have the opportunity to get their questions answered, because somebody might ask a question that the other person is thinking but doesn't feel comfortable speaking up and asking. And that might be what they need to go to the next step with you.
That's brilliant. Love that. Love that, Nikki.
Thank you.
Really super. So one of the things I had said to you before the before our podcast today was about, so I have a proposal out with a big organization. And normally with these kind of organizations, you know, you send your proposal, then you know that there's several other people have their proposals in the pot as well. And then you kind of wait to hear, really, you know, did you get it or not? So I got an email from the manager's assistant saying, well, the manager would like to meet with you for half an hour. Are you free on Thursday? And I was like, oh, okay. And I replied and I said, well, yes, of course I am. I mean, my kids are off school, it's half term, so my mum's going to mind the kids. So I've made arrangements. And so I'm meeting this lady on Thursday morning. And of course I replied and I said, I'm assuming this is about the proposal, you know. And she said, yeah, it's just a bit of an informal chat about the proposal. So I'm a bit nervous about this, Nikki, because this is not really something I've come across before, because it's quite a weighty proposal. So what is your best advice for me for going into this? It's a 30-minute informal chat about my proposal.
So I would go in and I would ask this question. So after looking through the proposal, what questions come to mind so far? I would ask that. And then find out what her questions are. Be ready to answer her questions. If she asks you a question you're not sure of, be okay saying, you know, I think that's something I'd like to think a little bit more about. Can I get back to you with an answer on that? And then the most important thing you do is at the end, after you kind of have this discussion, is say, now I'd like to check in with you about best next steps. What are the next steps in the process?
Okay.
And if she says, well, we're going to be reviewing, you know, and having conversations with other people, then I would say, when do you think you'll be making a decision? And is it okay if we go ahead and get a call scheduled now, a circle back call? And then that way, you know, I can answer any additional questions that have come up after you've met with these other people. And then we'll know at that point, we're either working together or we're not.
Yeah. Do you see that as me kind of taking control of the decision making then a little bit?
Not really taking control of the decision, but taking control of getting an answer.
Yeah.
Now she may say like, no, we'll call you, and just be really respectful and say, I understand, would love to earn your business. Know that you can reach out to me at any point with additional questions, and I'll be happy to hear from you.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I don't know if this happens where you are, Nikki, but here, quite often you send a proposal in for something, or even get on a phone call with somebody and talk about the proposal, and then you hear nothing, like nothing back. And this has happened to me quite a few times. And then I have just sent a very polite email saying, just checking in with you about the proposal. And then they've come back. So 3 times in the last, since about November, I've had emails from, and they're, I don't want to be rude about people, but they're more junior level staff, and they go, oh yes, that was given to somebody else. And I think, well, maybe I should be checking up on all of my proposals. Rather than, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating that happens.
Yeah. And I would suggest too that when you send a proposal, when somebody asks you for a proposal, that you say, I'd be happy to send that to you. Let's go ahead and get a call scheduled now on our calendars so that we can review the proposal and I can answer any questions that come up as a result. Okay. And the reason you want to get on their calendar is because now you're actually giving them somewhat of a deadline to actually look at your proposal. And then doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. Like you may get on the call with them and they're like, hey, we haven't looked at it yet. Or they may not be willing to set the call with you. Those that are, though, are more serious buyers because they need to walk them through the process. And it really is your job to move people to the next step. Like when I teach and talk about sales, I teach the selling process like it's a staircase. And it's your job to move your clients from each step. And the way you move them to the step is that you always have the next step scheduled. Okay. Like, let's go ahead and get this on our calendars, answer any questions that come up, review the proposal, and talk about best next steps. And then at that, and then you pre-frame at the beginning of that call. The purpose of this call is to check in with you, review the proposal, answer any additional questions that have come up, and then, of course, talk about the best next step. And the best next step at that point may be, let's exchange money for services, right?
Yeah. I love this.
So be willing to walk them through.
I have a vision of a staircase in my head now.
Yeah, I teach this. It's very much a part of how I teach the selling process, because when you understand what step you're on and how to move somebody to the next step, it becomes very structured. I love structure. And I think if there's a structure to something, then it's very easy for people to replicate success.
Yeah.
And so this is why I teach the staircase instead of the funnel, which I know a lot of people teach sales like it's a funnel. And I get the concept of it. And I come from a corporate background, so I get the funnel, like fill your funnel. And I think funnels, like the idea of thinking about funnels, a lot of times it's a lot of marketing activities, and you don't really take control. But when you think about, I'm on the staircase and it's my job to move the client to the next step, now you have some control over what's going on. And the control may be that you realize this is not an ideal client, or this is not somebody who's ready to make a decision now, which is all fine and good. You can still set yourself up for success later with them. But I don't want you spending a lot of time and energy trying to earn somebody's business who's just not ready to pay you money. Right? Like, let's set them to the side so that we can spend all of our energy and time on the people who are ready for us now.
Brilliant. Funnels are gone for me. I'm on staircases.
Okay, good. The selling staircase. That's my whole theory about sales.
I love it. Is that one of your books then, Nikki?
It's actually will be my third book. It's in the works right now. I'm hoping to have it out in the fall.
How exciting.
And it's all about the selling staircase and moving people up the steps.
Brilliant. What are your other, because you've 2 books out at the minute, haven't you? What are they called?
Yeah, so I have a book called 6-Word Lessons on Influencing with Grace, and that's a lot of really short little tips around conversation and relationship. And it was actually written before I started my business, but it has a lot of sales stuff in it because everything I do is sales related. And then my second book is called Buying Signals, and it's all around how do you convert those casual conversations into sales? How do you move people to the next step? So a buying signal is a verbal or nonverbal cue that somebody gives that indicates interest, and you have to act on them in the moment. So I wrote a book that has 17 buying signals in it, what to be on the lookout for, and then what to say when you get them.
I am so buying those books. They're brilliant. Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, they're excellent. Well, when I was doing a little bit of research for the podcast, I saw your